Welcome, everyone. This is a brand new episode of Tech Lyceum, a podcast from Birlasoft. And on this episode, we have a very interesting theme we're going to be addressing. We're going to be talking about the ESG key value creation drivers. Now, to give you some context, in a recent CXO survey, ESG, or Environment, Social, and Governance, as we've come to know it, has become one of the top priorities across the boardroom, with over 75% of CEOs sharpening their focus on net zero, decarbonization to improve the green posture, and also addressing numerous other externalities which have become relevant to their investors and customers. Now, to tell us more about this, we've got two amazing speakers joining us today. We've got Ayush Sharma, who leads the banking and capital market segment for Birlasoft in the US and has held global executive and strategic consulting roles. The most recent role being Senior Vice President at Moody's Corporation, leading the Moody's ESG engineering team, and now spearheading Birlasoft's ESG advisory practice for Fortune 100 financial services clients in ESG data management and product strategy. That's very impressive. We've also got Atul Kakkar, who is Vice President for BFSI at Birlasoft and has years of experience in banking and capital markets. Atul has worked across the value chain of financial services, including retail banking, capital market, and payments, with rich experience in collateral management, governance risk, and compliance and trade lifecycle. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Nija. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thank you, Nija. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ayush and Atul. Ayush, first question is coming to you. Tell us a little bit about this. Do you think ESG is real or misguided? What are your clients saying?
Well, Nija, the short answer is ESG is real, but especially when you put a global perspective to it. And the way I see it is through three particular categories. First one would be that how are the Fortune 100 enterprises reacting towards climate change and awareness? And we see it now. We see most of our Fortune 500 clients actually implementing their net zero strategy. We see them very active in the supply chain assessment, and which is actually applicable to suppliers like us as well. We also see the financially material metrics being more ESG centric. So that's a good sign. The second one I would say is look at the fastest growing economies that we have, especially with the CB board in India mandating top 1,000 listed companies to disclose their ESG metric. The second example that I would like to bring is the Middle East or Saudi, where they are transforming their mining operations to be more ESG compliant, which I think is going to be huge. And we saw in the COP27 as well, where the climate change discussions shifted from what last year to how, right? Which is also a good sign, right? So we see that progress. And I would say the third main driver is the consumer behavior. Now, recently, Birlasoft took part in CES 2023. We had close to 3,000 plus exhibitors, and net zero and climate and sustainability in digital transformation was at the forefront, which also says a lot, right? And these companies are global. They were small, they were mid-sized, they were, like Fortune 10s as well. And to me, all of this together actually says that ESG is real, Nisha.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that answer really puts things in perspective as well. Atul, is ESG relevant to the financial sector? What are your thoughts?
See, ESG is relevant in all the sectors, right? Agree that financial sector is not an emitter like the oil and natural gas and other, factories and industries around. But it's everybody's responsibility to make sure the ESG is well taken care of, right? Whether it's reducing their carbon footprints, or whether it is like creating portfolios. Like again, let me give you an example. If I'm a portfolio manager, right? I'm creating portfolios for my clients. I want to make sure that I include the products which are, or include the organizations which are ESG focused, right? And we have seen that a value multiple is given to those products or those portfolios which has been built. But more than that, right? Money aspect and his wealth creation aspect is is one side of it, but the whole responsibility of an organization, to reduce carbon footprints, to basically comply on ESG parameters, I think it's a must. We have seen what COVID did to us. We can't take things for granted, and whether it's financial sector or it's any other sector, it's everybody's responsibility to make sure they align and report their ESG parameters to the agencies properly.
Interesting. Ayush, I have a question for you. Is there a way to measure ESG? Is there a score similar to a credit score for an organization?
Yeah, Nirja, certainly. In fact, there are quite a number of global agencies, such as MSCI, Bloomberg, Refinitiv, Moody's, and similar. You would also see agencies which are operating regionally, because of course they are experts in their own region. Now, we as systems integrator, Birlasoft, we partner with a lot of data providers, and we have certain criterias where we advise our clients to choose a certain data provider. And we have those criteria listed around, four main areas, I would say. One is on the ESG research coverage. So this is where you would look at an entity or a company or an organization through its region, the sectors, the revenue, the scope, and then you also have the data sources. So the accuracy of data is important. Now, accuracy goes, I would say, a long way, right? So it can be their primary source or secondary of how they are acquiring their data. The other one would be, in my view, reputation and usage, right? So the recognitions they have, the platforms they are using, the deployments that they have, and of course, the rating scale algorithms, right? So we need to understand the methodology behind it. We need to understand what a score from 1 to 10 means, or 1 to 100. What does a triple A score mean, or a minus D, or similar, right? So it's kind of complicated, but not complicated. A score makes it easier to kind of convey the message. But yeah, there are companies, there are scores available, and we are of course here to advise our clients on that.
Okay, I think that's a real sign that ESG is going to be very important in the years to come. Atul, I have a question for you. What are some of the big ticket items if you are not an emitter as financial sector?
See, as Ayush also commented about, a lot of ratings which are already there, and I talked about the responsibility the organization has on ESG space. But the ESG mature organizations, they are advised constantly to measure three main pillars of sustainability, right? One is environmental, which is impact on environment. Second is social, how employees and other people are affected, and the third is economic, right? On where there is a value and how that translates to wealth, right? So you have to basically make sure all three parameters are well taken care of. With this premise, using ESG signals in portfolio construction to extract alpha, monitor risk, and raise the overall portfolio ESG rating while reducing the short-term and long-term risk is a big ticket item. So that's where the portfolio managers needs to be well aware of, how they construct their overall portfolio. Another one is to ensure compliance with all the international standards. So we have, a few, in mind, but there are a lot many. But things like UNPRI, UNGC, SASB, SDGCs, to give some examples, right? So you comply to those. You make sure your portfolio is aligned and constructed based on what I talked about, and then I think you're good. I mean, at least that part the non-emitters should focus on.
I think this was a great way for us to understand ESG just a little bit more. Maybe there's a long way to go, but we hope to have more of these conversations with you. Thank you so much for joining us, Ayush and Atul, and sharing your perspective on this.
Yeah, thank you, Nirja. It was my pleasure to spend time and also talk about ESG, which is very close to me.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nirja. This is being focused and being in the financial sector for long. It's always like being, as I said, creating wealth and doing what financial sector do is one thing, but then also caring about the responsibility towards ESG is another. Bringing those two things in perspective. Thank you for doing this, and happy to share my thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.